All right, folks, check this out. We have some very significant news late this evening that you are going to want to know about because Donald Trump and his team are going to try to cover the story up and pretend that it's not happening, but it is right before our very eyes. Donald Trump just ran to the Supreme Court and made a stunning late-night request that'll really disgust you. It's perfectly in line with who Donald Trump is and what his administration is about, but for any American that cares about their neighbor, any American that's sane, this will truly rock you to your core. So look, we're going to get into the story and more. There's a lot to get through tonight. I don't want to waste any more time. Make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. Drop a like on the video, comment. Let me know what you think about the story. And without further ado, let's dive in, shall we? So, throughout the government shutdown, we've been following a story surrounding Donald Trump not only trying to make healthcare infinitely more expensive, but also Donald Trump is very against SNAP, which is food assistance for hungry Americans. He has done everything in his power to not pay out food assistance for the month of November, despite court orders requiring him to do so. Just the other day on Truth Social, Donald Trump said SNAP benefits, which increased by billions and billions of dollars during Biden's disastrous term, due to the fact that he handed them out to anyone for just asking, as opposed to just those in need, which is the purpose of SNAP, obviously not true, will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up the government, which they can do easily and not before. Thanks for your attention to this matter. Of course, I always have to point out that Donald Trump and the Republicans control the entire government right now. Donald Trump is president. The Republicans control the Senate, the House, all these government agencies. They control the Supreme Court, and they haven't been able to open the government. It's also important to remember that during Biden's presidency, there was not one day where the government was shut down. This is a competency question. Joe Biden was able to keep the government open. Donald Trump has not been able to do that. Now we're in the longest government shutdown ever in American history. And despite these court rulings, Donald Trump has tried to not pay SNAP. But just earlier this evening, an appeals court said it won't block an order to fully fund SNAPs as states begin issuing benefits. So states are already sending money out for food assistance for SNAP, and an appeals court said that they're not going to get involved. Donald Trump must fund SNAP. And you can kind of see where I'm going with this, because Donald Trump, we just learned, ran to his buddies on the Supreme Court, sprinted to them, did the 100-meter dash to them, tried to beat Usain Bolt's record, and asked them to stop by 9:30 tonight the court order requiring payment of full November SNAP benefits. And just think about what we're talking about here. Donald Trump has run to the Supreme Court to ask them to allow him to starve people. There are hungry Americans out there who don't know when their next meal will be. And the President of the United States, instead of standing for those people, is asking his conservative friends on the Supreme Court to allow them to starve. Our country, under the leadership of Donald Trump, this regime, is so dystopian. It's so dystopian. When Biden was in office, when Obama was in office, they cared about the American people. And now we have this dictator wannabe loser cankles having freak going to the Supreme Court in the middle of the night saying, actually, these hungry people who are starving, yeah, let them eat cake. Marie Antoinette style. It is so frustrating that this is the country right now. And Ben Meiselas from Midas Touch, who I love, shout out Ben Meiselas, made a great point, saying the Dems offered a deal to stop the shutdown with a 1-year extension of ACA subsidies, and Trump responded by filing an emergency brief to the Supreme Court and demanding it starve people. The Democrats are in D.C. working, trying to open up the government, even though we don't control any branch, and the Republicans are not. Donald Trump is running to the Supreme Court instead. And you know what else? Oh, before I actually get to that, I do want to show you this photo, which I think perfectly resembles Donald Trump's term. This is yesterday in the Oval Office, where a man at a press conference passed out and collapsed on the floor, fell on the floor. And what was Donald Trump doing during that time? Well, nothing is the answer. He was just standing there, couldn't care less, wasn't even looking at the man for the majority of the video that came out when this happened. Wasn't even looking at him. We're just standing there, like looking up at the ceiling, looking up at the artwork, thinking, wow, I did such a great job. Narcissistic freak. And that right there, this photo is a perfect representation of the United States. Here are Americans starving, and there's Donald Trump. Perfect representation. And you might be wondering, what is Donald Trump doing while his administration is going to court asking the Supreme Court to starve people? Well, he is going to Florida. He's going to Mar-a-Lago for another weekend of partying. Take a look. Yep, that's the president going down the stairs, gripping on for dear life, might I add. He's holding on to that bar as if he lets go, he'll go tumbling, which maybe perhaps. But that's the president going to Florida at his lavish club. Speaking of his lavish club, this reminds me that the night that SNAP benefits expired, it's important to remember that Donald Trump was having a Great Gatsby-themed Halloween party, which really, if you've read The Great Gatsby, which I highly recommend, it is so good. You know, I'm not sure if MAGA has, but anyway, Great Gatsby for a theme for Donald Trump, especially when SNAP benefits are about to expire, is so on the nose. A wealthy guy in his resort with all of his wealthy friends dressing up, having these dinner parties. It just couldn't get more on the nose regarding Donald Trump. It's also, you know, important to see what this party was. I mean, just think about this for a second. Again, the word dystopian comes to mind. Millions of Americans, around 40 million Americans, are on the verge of losing their SNAP food assistance, and Donald Trump was hosting a Great Gatsby-themed party. And now he's going back to Florida to celebrate for the weekend. But this is what he was doing while Americans were wondering when the next meal they were going to have is. And I think Elizabeth Warren in the Senate the other day laid this out really, really well, talking about the hypocrisy of Donald Trump, the disgusting nature of this regime. And you just have to hear what she had to say. It is so spot on.
Trump tweeted 7 times in one day about his brand new marble bathroom at the White House, while Americans turned to crowdfunding to pay for their health care and grocery bills. Trump hosted a Great Gatsby-themed party while he turned off food assistance for millions of Americans. You know the message to 42 million Americans from Donald Trump? Eat dirt. And Trump is weighing the important idea of etching corporations' names into his grand new gold-encrusted ballroom, while millions of Americans who lose their health insurance will get sick and be forced to decide whether to give up care altogether or go bankrupt trying to pay for it.
Well, folks, after I finished recording the video, just moments after, we got word from the Supreme Court on their ruling, and they have granted Donald Trump's emergency appeal to temporarily block a lower court order requiring full SNAP food aid payments during the shutdown, allowing Trump to continue with partial payments instead. So we were just talking about Donald Trump asking the Supreme Court to allow Americans to starve. The Supreme Court said yes. And what Elizabeth Warren said and everything we just went through this video remains true. That this is the America Donald Trump wants. This is the America the Supreme Court wants, where we do not care for our hungry. We do not care for our less fortunate. We care for the wealthy and the billionaires who are building the ballroom and the bathrooms and the White House and all this crap. That's who Donald Trump and the Supreme Court cares for. It is appalling, and, well, I'm glad I was able to bring this news because I guarantee Donald Trump is minutes away from trying to frame it as something it's not. So look, I will leave the video there. Thank you so much for watching. Keep fighting. Stay in the fight. I know it's so easy to feel cynical and pessimistic, but when we work together, we can do anything. So have an amazing rest of your night. Make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like, comment, check in with me. I want to hear from you guys, and I'll leave it there. We will talk soon.